Welcome to episode 8 of America in Crisis, Breaking the Cycle of Addiction. My name is David Hunt, and I am your host. Wakefield is a town of around 27,000 and is located 12 miles north of Boston. Wakefield is proud of its low crime rate. Today's special guest is Rick Smith. Rick is the chief of the Wakefield Police Department. Chief Smith has been serving since 2004. He is part of the FBI Academy Session 176 and is vice president at large of the International Association of Chiefs of Police. Chief Smith is also second vice president of Northeastern Massachusetts Law Enforcement Council and is a graduate of Northeastern University. Chief Smith has previously worked at both the Melrose Police and Oak Bluffs Police Departments. Chief Smith is also a very active member of the Middlesex District Attorney Marian Ryan Opioids Task Force. Welcome, Richard. Thank you so much for appearing today.
Oh, thank you, David, and thank you for the opportunity to share some thoughts today.
Right. It's a pleasure to have you here. I know Chief Smith through his involvement with the DA's Opioid Task Force and his input. I thought he would be a great guest to share some of the ideas with our viewers. Chief, how long have you been chief now?
Well, I've been chief in Wakefield 15 years. Prior to that, David, I was the chief in Melrose for 5. I served the Melrose Police Department for 25 years and the Oak Bluffs Police Department for 5. So I've been around for a few years.
And with all your involvement, how have you seen this crisis escalate?
How do I see the crisis of...
Over the years, how do you see the opioid and drug use escalate over the years since you first started in 2004?
Well, you know, David, having been in the business for 46 years, I've seen an incredible increase in drug use, specifically the opioid issues. You know, back in the day, it was marijuana, it was cocaine. We went through the PCP stages, the angel dust stages back in the 80s and 90s. And where we are today is just phenomenal. And the reason being why it is so impactful to us in America is that this opioid crisis involves everybody, just not the poor, just not people living in very densely packed neighborhoods. It affects everybody. It affects all races, religions, creeds, all socioeconomic levels of society. It affects, quite frankly, it affects everybody's family. And if you reach around and ask people today if they have any contact and know anybody who's been involved with the opioid crisis, and they say no, they really should take another look, because most of us have someone in our families, whether near or extended, that have been subject to this crisis. And in many of us, we've witnessed in our own families the effects of an opioid overdose.
It's true. There's nobody I really can talk to that hasn't somehow been touched by this, either through family, friends, loved ones, or just people in school that they know. Let me ask a quick question. We did this with Woburn. Every town and city is different. Walk us through a typical case. You get a call, there's a person down on the road, police, fire, ambulance responds. Would your officers get there if they get there first? How does Wakefield handle this?
Well, what happens, like every city in town, a 911 call comes into the control center, which in Wakefield, much like Woburn, is a police department. And from that point, we dispatch our cars. We're on the road. At the same time, we dispatch fire and EMS. Our officers, 90% of the time, because we're on the road, are the first responders there. What they'd have to do, their first job is to make an assessment. And they'll talk to whoever called or a relative or whoever may be there. Usually they have a pretty strong idea that it's an overdose because of what you may find at the scene. If the person is unconscious, they go through their basic CPR, EMT steps. They do a sternal rub. They try to get the person to come to. If that doesn't work after repeated attempts, and they do not have to do CPR, they'll administer the dosage of Narcan.
So your officers do carry Narcan on them?
Our officers carry Narcan. We've been carrying Narcan now for 4 years, as well as our fire service. They're carrying Narcan now. And of course, our EMS providers carry Narcan. So we're very well equipped to manage this. Unfortunately, you know, what we're finding now, David, which is really problematic, is in the beginning days of this problem, we were giving one 2 milligram dosage unit of Narcan, usually in one nasal passage. Now we're giving 3 and 4, and it's taking that much to bring the person back.
I understand Wakefield responds right away, police, fire, ambulance, like you said, with Narcan. Are people relying too much thinking that you're going to get there on time? I know you have a very fast response, but if you don't find the victim for 5, 6, even 10, 20 minutes after the fact, are people thinking that Narcan's falling out of the sky?
Well, in many ways they do, but I'm proud of our response time, and
And it was awesome.
We're at 7 square miles. We're not a big geographic area, and our patrols are out on the road, and each one has sector responsibilities. So we're in pretty good shape to respond. It's a priority call because we know it's a life and death call, so we may have to divert patrols from other assignments. If they're doing an accident up on 128, may have to leave the state police up there, and whatever we have to do to get to the call. If we don't get there first, fire's there.
Okay.
And they do provide the same services. We train together, we work together very well with our fire and EMS providers. So whatever we do when we get there, the fire service does the same.
I'm finding it a lot with a lot of the towns now. Now it's not who gets there first, whose call is this, that they work together. And that's great that the communities do. There used to be police versus fire, and years ago, fire versus EMS in one of those big cities I'm not going to name. Now everybody's working together for this common goal. Police, fire, whoever gets there first, let's start working the patient right away. And I mean, that you've got to commend the police for having their Narcan and starting treatment in case the ambulance is tied up at something. The officers are already starting their CPR, their Narcan, and that contributes great for the chances of survival. Let me ask you a quick question. If I walk into your department, said, I'm a user, I don't know who to turn to, I actually have drugs on my body. Am I going to worry about being arrested, or what are you going to do for me? What if I walk in, Chief, here's a bag of drugs, I need help. What would you do for me?
We're going to absolutely help you. We will not prosecute. We will take possession of the drugs, and we'll put them in our evidence system to make sure that it's secure, and then we'll make sure they get destroyed in a proper manner. But our goal is to help the person. If the person is mobile and can walk into our PD, we're going to assign that person to one of our specialty offices. We have a family service officer, and she specializes in finding help for people who are in bad ways. So what we'll do is we'll also involve our mental health counselor. We have a non-sworn mental health clinician that works with us, and all of our officers are trained in mental health first aid, and over 30% of our officers are trained as crisis intervention officers. So we will try to get the person who comes in into the pipeline so that they can get help. We will guide them to services available. We'll guide them if they're really in tough shape. We'll guide them to the hospital. We'll transport them to the hospital. And from that point, we want to make sure that they understand it. We're going to track them and we're going to follow them in a positive way. We're going to follow them to ensure that they're seeking treatment, that they've talked to the people that they can talk to. They're not going to beat addiction unless they want to beat addiction, and we can be the first step to helping them understand that beating addiction, we understand it's not an easy thing, but it is something that can be done, and we're going to help them with that.
Now, you have a family services officer. A lot of departments don't have that, and some departments have it under a different title. Can we get a little more deeper into everything that she would do? Is that Amy, correct?
We don't have enough time, David, to talk about what she does, but I'll give it to you in a nutshell.
Okay.
Our family service officer is a woman who's been with the department about 10 years now. And her job is basically to ensure that people get the services that they need. It started with domestic violence. As we all know, domestic violence is the scourge of America today in many ways. And we deal with victims of domestic violence every day. And what we were finding is that we'd go out and we'd service a call. If they had to make an arrest, we'd make an arrest. But that wasn't solving the problem of making sure that that person who is a victim of domestic violence understands their options, where they can go, and basically to act as an advocate for them. And what has happened is that has expanded into the mental health piece as well as into the opioid issue. So what they do is they track these cases, and the goal is to make sure that they're getting the counsel that they need, and then to follow up with them. And what Amy does, she's our FSO, what she does is she tracks them. So if it goes back into the uniform branch, she establishes contact with the uniform patrols so that they also follow up. So we have this network that works very well. Everybody talks to one another, and the bottom line is that you come to the Wakefield Police Department for service, you will be serviced, you will be tracked, and we'll make sure that you're getting the services if you want to avail yourself of them.
Oh, that's awesome that you have something like that available. If we can get that shown up on the screen or at the bottom of the screen, I think we have Amy's logo up there and contact information. Next question is Needham. Your officers go out. Your officers are more involved than some cities. A lot of times the police will call, they'll realize it's an overdose. Some will stand back. If they're trained in CPR, they'll initiate it. Some of them won't because they don't have the training. Your officers are very involved because of Narcan, they're already treating the patient. After what just happened in Needham, are these officers more worried that they don't have the protective gear and they're taking their lives in their hands by touching these people on the ground?
Well, David, our officers are very well trained. We train on this all the time, and we train with the fire. Like I said, we train with the fire service as well as our EMS providers. But we do provide each of our officers, they have boxes of gloves so they can glove
Okay.
up on site. They have, with the fentanyl scare that's out there, we also have Tyvek suits for them if they need be. They also have respirators that they can wear. All of this equipment is carried in our cruisers. Each cruiser that's assigned to, or an officer is assigned to, has this equipment available to him or her in the event that they get into a situation that may be toxic to their health. But we make sure, and they have an obligation after they use this equipment to replace it so the next person isn't caught short.
Okay.
So none of our officers ever go into a home without being gloved up. And that's a start. And then from there, they make the assessment as to what they will need. If they were to go into a home and find a powder that may be consistent with fentanyl, we have precautions and policies that we've written to national standard that they will follow to ensure their safety. And then from there, if we find that there is a toxic substance in there, again, the fire service will be protected by the equipment they wear. And then we also offer them to be decontaminated first
Okay.
once they leave. And then if we need the services of the emergency room, we'll use the emergency room. We're in the jurisdictional area of the Melrose Wakefield Hospital, so
Yes.
that's our hospital. That's our first shot. If not, we take them to Leahy.
Okay. On the drug take-back programs that are happening in different communities, does Wakefield have a drug take-back?
We do. We do.
Now, is that every day they can come in? I know Woburn has a box at the police station. It's not just once a year or twice a year. What's Wakefield's program?
We have a box for drugs. We have two boxes, one for drugs and one for needles.
Okay.
24/7. It's open. Anyone can come in at any time, put their unused medications in in the appropriate box.
Okay.
Needles, rather than have the needles on the street, we advertise, that we will take them. No questions asked. They can come in 24/7 into the lobby and secure the needles or secure the meds. Very important for realtors to understand that because a lot of times you'll be showing a home of an elderly person,
Yes.
and a lot of times there's a lot of unused medication in the medicine cabinet. So we ask realtors to take advantage of the program we have. Then once a year, we participate in the federal DEA take-back program where they actually come in.
Yes.
We have a big advertised take-back, and we'll take everything on that day. At the same time, the drugs that we've secured over the year, we ship them all off to the DEA for destruction if we can't ship them off to our own private vendor that we use.
Now, you brought up realtors. This is a great opportunity for you to speak to people, just not in Wakefield, Woburn, but who's watching this nationally. What do you mean by realtors as far as going into a home? What happens when they're showing a home that I, the homeowner, should do? Should I be worried about strangers in my house?
Well, that's a good point, and I'm actually glad you brought that up. One of the issues is people put their homes on the market, and they prepare their home and they upgrade the home and update the home, but one of the things they forget about is the medicine chest, and especially if there's a senior in the home, the medicine chest is loaded with controlled substances, with drugs. And whether they're using them or not, or the senior may have passed and they're still there.
Yeah.
Many people will go to open houses just to shop through the medicine chest, and they'll steal the meds and then put them back on the street. So what we ask, and we have a partnership with our realtors, that when they do a showing, that they work with the owner of the home to make sure there are no meds or prescription meds available in the home. If there are, they either take possession of them or bring them to us and we'll destroy them for them.
Well, that's an awesome idea. Now, one other thing, I want to bring something else up. What about maids? What if I hire one of these maid services? Should I be worried, or if they come in and clean my house? Is that another source of drugs, something I should worry about as a homeowner? I have somebody, I'm downstairs and she's upstairs cleaning my bathroom. Are there precautions I should be taking?
Well, yes. Many of the house cleaning services are legitimate services with high quality, hardworking people who are trying to make a living.
Correct.
But there are also some that have an element of people who really aren't trustworthy. So if you're going to contract with a home cleaner, I would make sure that valuables are put away, certainly not viewable, not in a drawer, secured somewhere, that medications are secure, certainly firearms are secure, and again, in places that aren't viewable, like in a drawer or anything like that, that they are actually secure, because there's a temptation there. And
Oh,
it's
absolutely.
human nature, and some people just aren't trustworthy. I'm not disparaging the business. There's wonderful people that do a lot of great work for all of us, but there are people out there that
It just takes that one bad apple that you might be lucky enough to be the one to get.
That's right.
So you have to take precautions.
and you would hate to lose your grandmother's or your mother's ring that is an heirloom or has been passed through the family forever. That you cannot replace, and it's a heartbreaker more than a monetary value. The other thing is drugs on the street, or potentially a firearm on the street that shouldn't be on the street, and that's what we worry about.
People are always trying to scam you or get into your house for other pretenses. I'm with the water department, I'm with the fire department, I'm with the sewer department. Any advice you can give on people about ID and stuff? If someone knocks on the door and said, "Hi, I'm with Eversource, I'm checking for a leak."
Well, first of all, you check for an ID.
Okay.
Every one of these purveyors will come to your house, whether it's a gas company, a light company, it doesn't matter. They will have a bona fide ID. I would not be adverse to making a phone call to ensure that they actually are in the area and that they are servicing. If you didn't call for service, do not let them in. Call your local police right away, and we'll come out and we'll try to straighten it out. There's a million scams out there.
Oh, absolutely.
So you have to be careful, and you have to be thinking all the time on your feet, because a lot of times you're taken by surprise. One of the most popular scams is we had a gas leak down the street, we want to come in and check your meter. I'd call the gas company. I'd call the police department or the fire department to find out if that in fact is true before you let anybody in your house. Err on the side of caution.
Since we have actually a couple more extra minutes left, we're going a little early on the questions. Would you like to speak anything about the most common scams that are affecting not just Wakefield, but other communities too? Elderly scams, something you'd like to say, hey, this is your opportunity? What's the most common one going? No, that'll take 5 more shows to do that. What's something I should be watched out for? I get a phone call, hi, I'm with the IRS, I'm with the sheriff, what's going on?
Well, you're going to get a lot of scams. Right now, I don't want to date myself, but we're in tax season.
Yep.
And one of the biggest scams right now is the IRS calling. The IRS will never call you. The IRS will never contact you over the internet. For those of us who have been contacted by the IRS, they'll send you a letter. So anything, when somebody contacts you by mail, by email or by the phone, you always have the freedom and the ability to hang up. My suggestion, hang up. There's a bazillion scams out there, from IRS scams to gas company scams to your son or daughter or grandson has been arrested in a third world country. Just send me $500,000 and I'll make sure he gets home. Ironically, just last week, I received a fax saying that my brother had passed away in England, and my brother had $10 million, and they would split it. The attorney would split 40%, 40%, and 20% would go to charity. First of all, they send it to the police chief. Okay, that's not too smart. But secondly, if they send 1 million of these out, and 100 people bite, they're multimillionaires. So I say always call your local police if you have a question. If you're a senior, call whoever may be your caretaker, whether it's your son or daughter or grandchild or your neighbor. I would suggest neighbors watch out for neighbors. Go next door, have a cup of coffee with your neighbors, see what's going on. Just keep them in the loop, because these scams sometimes are so real and so authentic looking that many people fall for them. And once you fall, you're not going to get your money back.
We're definitely going to be doing a show on this in the very, not distant future. I know one thing about the IRS. They love their music. They don't want money. They want Apple gift cards and iTunes cards. So they really must love their music over money. But getting back to the subject at hand, I just wanted to bring that up as a perfect opportunity for the chief to address problems. Actually, I'm under pressure today. We actually have a live studio audience today, so I'm under more pressure. But anyway, I see a bunch of young kids in the audience. Obviously, you have a school resource officer, correct, guys?
Yes,
Somebody
sir.
say something so we know we're live. Okay, awesome, thank you. So, what do you guys know about a school resource officer? What can you tell me about him without giving names? You have one, what's he do for you?
Great guy.
He's always in the school, so if we have a problem, we can run to him.
And that's Ed, that's here, that's your resource officer?
Yeah.
And you just said you run to him. Is that somebody you feel that you can trust? We're going to have him on as a guest in the next couple of episodes. He'll be coming in. And that's something from kids, that's a source that's trustworthy?
Yeah, he is.
If you guys feel that you can't talk to parents, it's like you're so embarrassed, your parents have this image of you that maybe you're afraid to say to your parents, I got involved in a drug, and you need someone like an SRO that you can talk to that can help you?
Yeah.
So for people watching this, whether it's Woburn, Wakefield, Winchester, I don't care where it is, you have this availability called a school resource officer. He's out there to help you before you end on the side of the police chief. Chief, what can you tell us about Wakefield's SRO?
Well, we actually have 3 of them.
Three?
Well, we have the Northeast Vocational School, so we have one permanently assigned up there. We also have one permanently assigned at Wakefield High School, as well as one assigned to the middle school and the lower grades. We're very proactive. They're very well trained. They're very well embedded in the community. They work a lot of hours of off time. They're at all the social events. They're at all the sporting events. But what they do is they've developed a level of trust within the school environment, where not only do the students trust them, but the parents trust them as well as the staff. They do have teaching responsibilities, but they also serve the purpose of not as an enforcer, but more as a confidant and a liaison and an advocate for the students. And I think they do a great job. With kids today, they're a lot different when we were in school.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot going on, and there's a lot going on at home that they bring to the school, kids today. And that's what our officers are trained to do. They're trained to mitigate these. They're trained to guide these students into making the right decision. They talk a lot about substance abuse and alcohol abuse. They use a lot of the statistics that come out of the different polls that are taking. But they also serve as, in many times, some students' best friend. And to me, as a police practitioner, that's very important because this school resource officer is someone that the students will remember for the rest of their lives. And that impact is important because it's a uniform officer, and the days of when the police car was in front of the school that meant bad things were
Yes.
happening now means that good things are happening, and the police are there as a liaison, as an advocate, as a friend. The other thing too is they work with the staff to talk about, unfortunately, the horrors of today and
Yes.
active shooter situations, and they help the staff understand how to manage those. They help the staff drill. They assess the needs of the staff in the schools, and then they share that back with the police department so that we can adjust our strategies on how to work with the schools going forward.
My take on the SRO is I see the man every day as a student. Being a student, I would see the man every day. I'd be afraid to walk into a police station because I don't know what I'm going to face. If I was using drugs, I had a problem, to walk into the police department, what did I just tell them? I'm going to go to jail. That's how people think nowadays. They see the resource officer every day. He's there to help. He's there to help. I'd be much less reluctant to say, hey, listen, I need to talk to you. I have a problem. Can we talk without me getting into trouble? And that officer would be there to sort of guide me along rather than throw the cuffs on me. I don't know how many kids would want to walk into a police station that could trust the police and say, hey, if I walk in, they're going to want my source, they're going to want me to snitch, they're going to be afraid. What if I get arrested for walking in the door with a bag of drugs? I think because they see that officer every day in school and got to know him and hear the speeches and the lectures and know that that man is here to help me, you can come to me day or night with a problem, I would have more trust opening up to that officer that I see every day than to walk into this department and say, oh my God, what am I going to get myself into?
Well, that is part of the role of the school resource officer. But in today's world of 21st century policing, David, our officers are trained to be receptive and compassionate. And Our officers walk routes. Our school resource officers dress down out of uniform. They play basketball with the kids. Our officers, we have a few very good hockey players. They've been known to skate on Lake, to get out of their patrol cars
Yeah.
and put skates on and play in a pickup hockey game on Lake Quannapowitt. I mean, we advocate that, and so it's important that the school resource officer makes a connection at the school level. But those children, as they progress through their educational years, understand that we're actually there to help now. Our role as law enforcement has changed
Correct.
incredibly.
Yes.
And now we're more social service agents than anything else. And I know because I walk the square, and people will come up to me and ask, questions. The days of the parent saying to the young child, "You behave or this man will arrest you,"
Yes.
those days are gone, thankfully.
Yes.
And we've worked hard in the last decade to try to change the perception of what we do every day. And a big piece of that is what our school resource
And we see the
officers
police out there doing charity fundraising, doing everything, helping with the clubs. In fact, speaking of, I was privileged to have the Boys and Girls Club of both Wakefield and Stoneham on. I had Adam Rogers and Katie Moore on from both clubs. How do the police work with the clubs, and what do you really think the clubs are doing for kids with this opioid epidemic? How are they so valuable in your eyes?
Well, the Wakefield Stoneham Boys and Girls Club is very near and dear to me. I sit on the board of directors.
Oh, I actually wasn't aware of that. Okay.
So you got the right guy. We have formed an incredible partnership with the Boys and Girls Club. Our school resource officers, especially the one out of the middle school, Kelly Tobine,
Okay.
she spends a lot of time at the club with the kids, just being one of them. We have great programs. We have Dodging for Dollars.
Yes.
We have softball. We have hockey games. We play all kinds of interactive events. Our officers who have a responsibility for that patrol district are known to stop their cruisers, get out, go in, play paddleball, play ping pong, have a conversation with the kids. We're not strangers in the Boys and Girls Club, and what they do, Adam's done a great job, and we've partnered with them. We've worked with them and Middlesex DA's office
Yes.
to create a partnership of trust and basically crossbreeding, where we go back
Correct.
and forth and we share a lot of things. So we're very lucky to have Boys and Girls Club in Wakefield, and to utilize that as an asset to both the kids that are part of it in their after-school program. My take is an after-school program at the club, the clubhouse as they call it.
Yes.
The kids aren't hanging on the street, they're doing constructive things. There's programming there, there's games for the kids to play, and then there are places where they can interact with their peers. And a lot of the bullying and stuff that we see on the street doesn't happen when you're involved in a Boys and Girls Club. And the parents don't have to worry about, parents are very busy today, so parents don't have to worry about where the kids are.
Which is why I brought them on the show a couple of episodes ago. If you can get the kids, before even getting into the cycle of addiction, by having a healthy place to go after school, they're not even going to think about trying drugs. Because let's face it, kids come home after school, there's nothing to do. You get video games, you hang out with your friends. Hang out with your friends, one or two of them may be using drugs. There's peer pressure, hey, try this. Everyone else is doing it. And now you're getting into a bigger cycle and getting into the problem. If you go to a boys or a girls club after school, or even the Y or one of these social groups, I'm not just endorsing the boys club, but something that's healthy, you're gonna have something to do, maybe learn a career. I know the boys club does coding down there, teaching actually a career that they can turn into, and they have so many more programs. You're not hanging on the street, not knowing what to do. Oh, have a beer, there's nothing else to do. That just gets into more trouble as a gateway. But when you can go and meet friends at a boys club, hang around with your friends at the boys club and girls club, and have a healthy environment, that's taking you out of the street and someplace that you can go of quality time with leadership and actually have something constructive to do. So you basically, what's the best way to stop drug abuse before it starts, other than Boys and Girls Club? Any ideas?
Prevention and education. Talking with your children, talking with their teachers, talking with their peers, making them understand that, and let them understand and find out on their own that, drug use is not the way to go. There are so many other alternatives in life today. We provide so many sporting programs or debate programs or educational opportunities for kids today. The power of addiction is certainly overwhelming, and we understand that kids today, like kids in my generation or your generation, they're gonna try things. It's only natural for teenagers to try alcohol, to try drugs, And we know that's going to happen, so we deal with it. But I think to get out in front of it, that the children get to see that their parents and the community and their police department and their fire department, whoever it may be, are working with them, not against them, to try to get them to understand the dangers of drugs. Drugs can and will ruin your life. And we get that message out, that it's unacceptable. Yes, it's illegal, but it's unacceptable. And that's not the way to be successful in life. It's not the way to set yourself up for the future. And it's our responsibility as parents, as community people, community leaders, as teachers, to let the kids know that we support them in what they do. We understand where they are because we were teenagers once also.
Oh, yeah.
And that to guide them away from drug use into healthy lifestyles and healthy relationships. And that's most important. Children today must understand from us, we've been there, how important healthy relationships and healthy lifestyles are.
Now, times have changed and drug use is starting at an earlier age from when we were growing up. What's the best time for parents? There's a lot of good parents out there watching the show that seem to be doing good and they think they're doing good, but may not be in tune with the ages. What age is not too early to start addressing your kids on drugs? I know when I was growing up, I'd have to talk with mom and dad probably when I'm 16, ready to become an adult. And nowadays, by 16, I believe that's way too late.
Way too late, David. You know, we see and we have, through the Youth Risk Behavior Survey, we see conversations about kids starting in grammar school using drugs.
That early?
That early. Drugs and you know, sexual relationships starting at a very early age. So I think one of the most important things a parent can do is ask questions and pay attention. Do not be afraid to ask the really tough questions. And if you ask the right questions, the really tough questions in the right way, and show your child that you care and that you're concerned about their well-being. The questions can't be asked in passing. The questions have to be asked in a setting. And don't be afraid to ask that question again. And you will get, for the most part, you will get the truth after a while. And you'll certainly get a feeling for the way that your child is thinking. And that's most important. Be a parent, not a pal. And you know, by being a parent, we all know that's a full-time job. It's a tough job. It's not easy. But being invested in your children's future, being invested in your children, and asking the tough questions usually helps things along on a positive road.
I keep hearing the term a marijuana talk kit. What's that about?
Well, that's common. That's basically, it's a guide on how to talk about marijuana, basically.
So if I'm a parent, I can find this information. If I don't really know what to say, I want to say, hey,
Right.
little Joey, are you using drugs? Is it something out there that's giving me a better way of approaching and starting the dialogue?
Exactly. And you know, one of the, starting the dialogue goes back to the last question about having that conversation. But one of our biggest problems right now is the legalization of marijuana.
Oh, yes.
Because kids under 21 think it's legal. And it's not. And the decriminalization of it, the change in policy on it, the change of acceptance on it has put a whole nother layer on substance abuse. We had enough trouble with beer.
Oh, yes.
Now we have more problem with youth with marijuana. And the studies are out there. I'm not going to be an advocate for either side, but I will tell you as a police chief, the studies are out there that tell us the damage that marijuana smoked at an early age consistently harms the children or the child's ability, the young adult's ability to grow. And, you know, this is not the way that we should be, my opinion, this is not the way that we should be exposing our youngsters to this. Like I said, we had enough trouble with beer. Now we have marijuana on top of it. And it's just not smoking the marijuana. It's not the juuling, but it's also the edibles. The
yes.
edibles are incredible. They look like candy. They look like, you know, Swedish fish. They look like this. They look like that. But where there's no dosage unit in them, they can be deadly. They can be deadly. And they can be incredibly addictive to a young person's personality. That's a huge problem for not only social service agencies, but for law enforcement.
I mean, we all know the brain's still developing on a youth until you're about 25 years old, so marijuana isn't the most healthy thing on a brain that's developing.
True, true, and we know that. We know that the studies support that. So why do we want to do that? Why do we want to expose our youth to those pitfalls? My take is we shouldn't, and we don't. When a person becomes an adult at 21, quite frankly, I'm still out on that because we still have to deal with impaired driving, and that's another. We had enough trouble with alcohol.
Yes.
Now we've layered marijuana on top of that, and I know there's arguments for both sides. I get that. I understand that. But you asked me my opinion. I'm going to give it to you as a police chief. So, we have to be aware of our children. We have to make sure that they understand the rules and the parents understand a better way to help them along in life.
Is there anything you'd like to leave us with? Any final thoughts?
I could go on forever. David, first of all, I want to thank you for having me on the show.
Well, thank you so much for attending.
This is a great chance to start a dialogue, and I think that's what our goal is to start a dialogue for those who watch this show. We're here to help. We're here to guide. We're here to direct. And hopefully those who watch this show will get some tips out of what we've talked about. The opioid addiction rate in this country is skyrocketing. It's killing our people, and we're doing the best we can to try to curb it. In Wakefield, overdoses are down. Fatal overdoses are way down. And I think that has to do a lot with education. I think it has to do a lot with Narcan. But more importantly, it has to do with the dynamic of people working together to try to solve a problem that is quite a large problem. But working everybody together, working as a team, I think we're going to be able to curb this as much as we can. Our goal is to save lives and keep people healthy.
And that seems to be working very well in Wakefield with the extremely low crime rate. I'd like to, that's the reason I invited Chief Smith with us today, because obviously what one works for one city or town may not work for another. A small town may have solutions to share that other towns never thought of. That's what major reason the opioid task force was formed with the district attorney's office, to bounce these ideas off each other and share them. I would like to thank Wakefield Police Chief Richard Smith for appearing on today's episode and wish him the best in his upcoming retirement. You can contact Wakefield's Family Service Officer, Amy Rando, at the information at the bottom of your screen. The show can be seen on Woburn Public Media stations and on YouTube. For America in Crisis, Breaking the Cycle of Addiction, my name is David Hunt. Thank you for watching, and please share this link with YouTube, with your friends, your social media friends. Until next time, I thank you for watching, and thanks for the wonderful staff at Woburn Public Media for allowing me to do this every couple of weeks. This is a great service they're providing to the community, and I can't thank them enough for their help. Our guest, Richard Smith, thank you so much for appearing. Again, good luck in your retirement.
Thank you, David.